Welcome back, everybody. Got another episode of Dadam Gaming. I'm gonna do something that needs to happen. I need you to come a little bit closer. A little bit closer. You need to really listen. This is your resident papa for this next 15-20 minute video. Really need you to listen to me. I want you to know it's all your fault. Wouldn't that be some crazy shit if that's what your parents told you? Come here, son. I need to have a very serious talk with you. It's all your fault. Um, However, in this case, part of it is definitely our fault. And I say our as a pejorative to the video game industry's current state of being. These companies are pushing us as gamers, as consumers. They're pushing the market in a really bad direction. And I think it's kind of getting to potentially a breaking point. And it's kind of why I wanted to address this. And it's funny that Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth would pop up. Because I've talked about it before in the past on the stream. Just gonna go ahead and pop that. Because the base game is $70. However, it has serious things missing out of the game. Normal content that should just be there, that shouldn't have been removed. And that seems to be a excuse me, choking. It seems to be a real growing trend in games, especially from certain companies, to where the shift isn't let's try and make quality games. Let's make quantity games. And the quantity that they're trying to make is beyond a monetary. If we make a good game, our companies can make a lot of money. It goes deeper than that. It's now about triggering really bad habits in people. And it's getting extremely, in my opinion, exploitive. And they can say what they want, that they're not trying to do these things to be underhanded or to take advantage of people, but the reality is they're partnering with companies that are doing research and development on how to trigger within specific subsets of people gambling addictions or gambling habits, and they're trying to form them. And the scary thing is the age in which they're trying to target these demographics, the bar just keeps getting lower to the point where it feels like they're just trying to create generation upon generation of people that have real problems controlling themselves. Now, naturally, as gamers, most of us have self-control issues. Most of us have issues with I guess let's just go with baseline reality. We're easy targets for things like this. We're easy to manipulate. And whether that's through, FOMO, whether that's through fear buying, whether that's through just being manipulated by media, by streamers, I think we're a real easy demographic to hit because naturally, I think, that's changed a lot in the past, but I still think at its core, there's a large portion of people that play video games that have trouble with social anxiety, or they have trouble with a lot of things involving the real world, and they use video games as a way to really process those anxieties and those fears. You know, there's people that have different degrees of autism that can't function in normal society. They get overwhelmed, they get overstimulated, but then in a video game, they can process those things and they can play them and they can get consumed by them. And then we have companies that are coming out that are just rapidly attacking these people, and they're targeting gamblers and they're targeting children who have extremely bad impulse control and long-term, you know, long-term foresight in creating bad habits or identifying bad habits within themselves. And it's getting worse, you know? Like this game was god awful, right? $70, $85. So an additional $15 gets you the Master Vacation bundle. So essentially, this game with tax was $100 base, like everywhere. And then I think even if you were in Australia, this was probably like $150 game baseline, right? The $110 edition. So with tax, you're looking at 180, maybe 200 in some countries. So that's not like, hey, let's go buy a game, right? That's like, hey, do I want to feed my family? Do I want to buy medicine? You know, do I want to skip a car payment? And I think it's an interesting dichotomy that we've created, in that the fact that some of us have to have moral dilemmas if we want to actually purchase and play games is crazy. Because it shouldn't be that way. You know, I understand games should be more expensive, you know, as the world is increasing, but as that increase in the economy is worldwide at this point, it also means that the expenditure of excess becomes less and less and less. Food is crazy. We just went and we bought food for it's like a paycheck. I literally, you know, I got to drop a week's, you know, 45 hours of work to feed the family. Um, like that's nuts. And there's so many people out there that are struggling. There's so many people out there that don't have that extra money. And then you have kids that get put into situations in school or in society where they like the FOMO of not being a part of a trend or not being a part of something is so drastic. And there's so much finality in everything and every choice in life now. It feels like, you know, it's just like, oh, well, it's just a video game, get over it. It's like, for a child, that's not it anymore. It's not just a video game. It's acceptance with his friends. It's acceptance in school. It's the difference between getting bullied. It's the difference between, you know, I was the poor kid in school. In elementary school, we moved 8 or 9 times in like 3 or 4 years. It was terrible. I went to so many different elementary schools, and it's not something that you want to be labeled as a kid, right? No kid wants to have that thing. They don't want to be known as, you know, the video game nerd. They don't want to be known as the smelly kid. They don't want to be known as the weird kid. And I think just the way schools work and the way just survival instinct kicks in those moments is people just you have to group up because it's easier to survive in a pack. And my point to that is, as a pack, us as consumers have to take that pack mentality and we have to group up and really be smarter about these things. I'm guilty of it. My friends are guilty of it. You know, in the past where there's a game that came out and maybe the ethics behind it were a little off, or um, there was something going on where I probably could have chosen not to buy it. And I was just like, well, it's just a video game. I'm going to buy it anyways, right? And I think the video game industry has proliferated really bad business practices based off of that. This is one of them right here, right? Horrible, horrible DLC built into games. And I guarantee you, this game is incredible, right? This game is probably, a AAA title, as they would call it, right? It's their flagship series, Yakuza. I have very little doubt that there's much wrong with this game other than it's a normal Yakuza game and you're going to be playing it for 5 billion hours. But did it need this? Did they need to do this to sell it, to make more money? And I can't answer that because I'm not in the video game industry. But as a consumer, the reason this game doesn't sell as well as like a Final Fantasy game is not because of how it's being packaged. It's not because of a price point. It's just because it's more of a niche game than it is just like a mainstream uh wide audience that just reaches out to a bunch of people. A very select set of people want to play Yakuza games, right? A very select people want to play an MMO, want to play a sports game, right? They want to play the 30th version of Madden, 2012 with updated graphics if you're lucky. Um, but we've set this standard with these company where we continue to buy these games regardless of how bad they are. Regardless of the massive technical issues or the massive, barriers that should be something that's punished or should be something that's looked into. And we allow these outside forces to create this, this level of biasness inside of ourselves in the decision making we do, where we continue buying these things or we continue doing it, right? There's all these people that go, well, I'll play Fortnite, but I'm not going to buy DLC, but I'll buy the season pass. And then a couple months later, it's, well, I'll just buy this $10 skin because it's super cool, but I'm not going to buy all the other ones, right? And so if you take a player base of 10 million people, and in a year span, I want to say the last metric I read something like 60% or 70% of people that engage in like a free to play game like Fortnite interact with the store and spend real money on skins or something, the season pass and all those other things. Call of Duty's a big one. Call of Duty ended up making more money being free to play, engaging people through those metrics than other. A lot of people joked around and said it's because it's all the people that like get their main accounts banned cheating and then they have to create a new one, and that's BS. That doesn't count. Counter-Strike, they released a new loot box. It made like almost $300 million in like 2 hours. Like, it was ridiculous. And then at this point, I think it's up to like $1 billion in sales if I was to check into it. Like, that's insane. Like, we're funneling so much money into these companies and they're not doing anything to earn it. And so all these outside sources look at it and they go, well, why are we wasting our money on these things? Look at what Counter-Strike did. They haven't updated that game in 8 billion years. And the first update they did was filled with bugs. It was borderline unplayable for some people. The shot registry on it was so off that you could aim literally an inch and a half to the left of somebody and fire and kill them. So it's not even like it was small little things. Like, it was really bad. It is plagued with thievery. It's plagued with real money laundering for crime syndicates, for drug cartels. Probably to some degree there could be like potential, like terrorism being funded through these accounts that have 5, 10, 15 million dollars in digital skins, and the skins just keep transferring person to person, account to account, and there's nothing like holding any of that accountable. Diablo 3 had a real money auction house that was rampant, and it changed the entirety of the game and how they developed it and how they looked at the saturation of the market, the power scaling, and they literally power scaled the game so that you had to interact with it, otherwise you couldn't play the game. And that's insane. Like, that's so scandalous. And we keep having these moments where gamers really do like take a step back of the moment and they take a look at it and they go, you know what? I'm not going to play this game, or I'm not going to support this. I'm going to walk away, right? But it's always after the fact, right? I am I can guarantee you that if you compare Diablo sales from day 1 to, month 3, month 4, month 5, there are millions of game sales and units moved from people that knew the game was broken, that the game was like essentially still in alpha, not even in beta, like still in massive quantitative issues. It couldn't be programmed, it couldn't be things that should tell people don't buy this game, right? And it was still moving millions of units because there were these people that were like, well, I'm just going to check it out for myself, or I'll suffer through it, or they'll fix it eventually. And that process or that mentality has created such a negative response for us. We have such a negative interaction with the company based off that. And they get all the leeway in the world to fix these games. And granted, some companies do, and some companies are trying, and I'm all for them making up for their mistakes. But at the same token, in my work, if I was to do something as drastic as any level of severity to how do some of these games come out where it's borderline criminal, like how unplayable they are, or like how shelled out they are of the actual core game to funnel money from their customers, I'd get fired. If you found any way to do that, if you applied this to any other thing, right? And I'll use this as a really good analogy. I was talking to my friend about it, and we kind of came up with this. But if you went to Burger King, okay, and you ordered a Whopper, and they brought out an uncooked piece of meat, and they put it on the table, just an uncooked piece of meat, and they just flopped that shit right down on the tray, and they said, "There you go," and you're like, "Wait, I can't eat that. Cook my burger." Oh, well, that's going to cost you an additional $9.99. I already paid for the burger. Yeah, but this is what we made for you, and just deal with it. How does that interaction change to here's your game that you just paid $60 for, and it's unplayable. It's raw. You're getting a raw fucking burger on your game tray, right? What's the difference between that? We would throw that burger back. We would demand our money. We would throw the biggest conniption fit. We would never return to that restaurant again. Why? Because we have so many other restaurants around us to do that. Why don't we do that more with video games? And I'm gonna use myself as the perfect example. Okay. And this is just on, if I went to my PlayStation store, it's embarrassing. PlayStation knows how to get me to spend money by putting a game on sale for a shitload of money or a shitload of discount. But look at all of these games, and I will tell you flat out, I have not played and beat a ton of them. Witchers I've beaten. The Warhammer 40Ks I've played multiple times, and they're really good games, but I've never fully beaten them. I've never beaten Torchlight or Torchlight 2. I bought Terraria for Connor. I could play Rainbow Six right now, but again, that's a game that has a shelled out system to get more skins, but at least it has a more playable, complex combat system than what probably is occurring in Warzone. I only say that because the last time I played Warzone, it was extremely bad, and the hacking was it was unbearable. Um, but why do I have all of these games that honestly there's probably 1,000 hours in games just on my Steam, right? I'm gonna open up Blizzard. I could play Diablo 2 Resurrected again. I could go back and play Diablo 3. You know, there's a lot of free to play things. There's a free to play version of World of Warcraft. I have invested a shitload of money into that. That means that it's a bad example. StarCraft 2, I bought it full price, and I didn't really enjoy it at the start, but I've heard a lot of things have changed. I have never engaged with this again since buying it. Is there any way I can check to see how long I played it? Hold on, let's take a look. Wouldn't that be amazing if they had a button here that says how long you actually played it for, like they do on Steam? They don't. Um, and I'm gonna go in here. I wonder if it'll let me into the actual shop. I don't know if it'll go all the way into the Blizzard shop. It might. It's like halfway there. But that's $26 for this skin. Okay? This bundle with 6 digital items is $26 additional dollars. Battle Pass, purchase it now. Purchase 36 versions of it. Like, I've already bought the game and it's still marketing it to me. It can't even identify that I've already spent money on it. They're like, it's just still automatically just flood marketing everything, right? Buy the accelerated season pass for an additional $20. It says it's in my library, but I could still buy it if I wanted to. But I mean, that's to gift it up. All right. Oh no, here they are. Okay, $30 for feathers. $26, $24, $12, $18. Like, I truly actually wonder how much money if you were to buy everything. I'm sure someone has figured it out. If you were to buy every DLC pack in Diablo 4 and every skin for every class, it wouldn't surprise me to hear that you would have to spend over $5,000. That's insanity to me. Like, that's just pure insanity. Considering it almost feels like they don't even pay their staff to develop this game anymore for a while. This is just a broad example. Obviously, the game's in a much better place. The company's in a much better place, and I applaud them for trying. But this right here, all of this occurred while the game was borderline unplayable, while they were hemorrhaging players, and every time they hemorrhaged players, it felt like instead of addressing the game, they just threw more DLC at to make up for those players. One person left. Well, let's add another 10,000 platinum pack in here, and we'll make up the money they don't spend by having somebody else spend it, right? And it's this weird whale mentality that we've created, where it's no longer identifying whales. The whale is the industry. We are the whales because we are getting farmed, man. And we're going to be an endangered species because the way that they're developing these games and the way that they are structuring their play or structuring how they variable their success is how much we're engaging with these additional expenditures. And that's insane because then that means if we do engage with them, we give them a false bias that this is a good thing and we enjoy it when we don't, because anyone who's buying these things is not having a good time buying them, right? I mean, let's go to Counter-Strike. This kilowatt case, oh, it dropped down in price. I believe this is the new one. I think it's this one. It was like $20 a case when it first came out. Yeah, this one right here. Okay. So when this first came out, it was like $20+ or some shit like that. Like, it was freaking insane how much people were paying for it. I wish I could. Can I go into the lifetime? Oh, there we go. Yeah, okay, here we go. So it started at $15 a case. So to even have an attempt to pull something at a random varied skin level, because they have different you have battle worn, scarred, minimum wear, factory new, right? So you want the factory new version of it. And there's like 1,000 different versions of each freaking skin, right? So this Op Chrome Cannon, there is like a 1 in 8 million chance that you're going to get it factory new. And then to get it into a pattern that makes it worth a certain amount of money, you have a 1 in 8 billion chance. So it's just like the gambling is just atrocious. And then you can do this on Twitch. You can do this on YouTube. You have people that base their entire accounts around spending money gambling, right? And this is one of the things I found funny. I'm not going to call out any streamer. Do what you're going to do, make your money, make a living, right? World is hard enough. You don't need people telling you you're doing the wrong thing. And that's, I'm not going to say anyone's doing the wrong thing in that aspect. If you're getting sponsored and you want to do it, and you can morally, if you don't have to justify yourself or you don't have to feel bad, then do it, right? If it makes you feel bad, then you should probably identify that or have that, inner conversation with yourself. But I just, you have these streamers, and I literally, and the reason I'm addressing this is because I watched it last night. It was last night or the night before last. I was watching Troy Dan, and he does he does all the sports games. He does 2K, he does Madden, he does the league or the show. And even though he's Canadian, I don't know if I've ever seen him do NHL. He's done UFC though, but he was engaging with the 2K marketplace because he was trying to get a couple hundred rating characters, for the memes, for his viewership. And I watched him in this stream. He dropped a couple $1,000 essentially, and luckily he didn't have to worry about it because he had enough points left over from a previous stream where he spent $5,000. He had 10,000 people watching him, which is incredible, right? That this is where streaming has gotten itself to, and where people are able to get to these levels. Tim the Tatman has 30,000 people watching him live. That's, oh my God, that's so insane. That's amazing, right? It's almost like they're more popular now than, TV shows. If you took the demographic or of the engagement level of between them and you compared it on a massive scale. We could almost have a TV channel that's just streamers, and it's the most popular streamers taking up time slots, and they would get millions of views probably. And I'm sure somebody's out there trying to monetize that. It wouldn't surprise me. But I watched him drop thousands of dollars and not get it. And the entire time, man, he was so pissed and just not having fun. It was painful, but he just kept doing it for the views and doing it for the clicks. And I just I hated. I was continued watching it because I was just man, what a weird place to be in, to be put in a position where you really truly hate something, but you continue doing it because it makes you money. And I know that's how life is. But this is where I say we need to kind of come together as a group, because we're pushing these people to do these things. These people are then doing them, and it's creating this negative feedback loop where anyone watching him, which his demographic audience seems pretty young, and I think he even kind of admits that. But if he gets even 10 people out of that stream to engage in that market and spend $1,000, right? $1,000, how many game sales is that? But better, they didn't have to do anything to program. I mean, they do have to do some things to program it or create the skin, and minimal amounts of work or effort kind of go into it in the large scale. If I was going to compare it to programming an actual full game, you're talking a much smaller loop to pick a skin, pick a color, pick a camo type, or a texture, develop it, put it in the game. The turnaround on that is probably 1/10,000th or 1/1,000,000th of what it takes to develop a game, program the game, test the game, QA the game, market. It's just it's a totally different parameter for sure. But we create this fandom for these people because we want to watch them do it, because we do enjoy it. And I feel like that's where we need to find some way to channel that within ourselves as a community and grow in having both self-control and restraint. When a game comes out that's extremely exploitive, not buying it. And then the same thing goes for, we need to get to a place where these streamers aren't being put in these situations where they have to promote these games even though they hate it. You know, the whole time he was saying this is dumb. Don't do it. Don't waste your money. I can do it because I'm in a position where I'm getting, paid by sponsors to do it, and I can waste this money because they're paying me to waste it. And even with him saying all of those things, it doesn't negate the fact that what it's doing is it's creating triggerable actions inside of people's psychosis, causing them wanting to spend that money. They're watching the slot machine roll, right? If you took two people and you had one standing in front of a slot machine and then you had another one in a different room by himself, but he was told that at one point he could go spend money on a slot machine if he choose to, or if he chose to, which one do you think is going to choose? Let's say it was the same exact person with the same level of psyche, like you just put him in two separations. Which one is going to trigger him to spend money before the other one? It's going to be the one that's sitting there in, near the slot machine, watching the lights go, watching it spin, watching the video play, right? And so this is what the streamers are doing, and this is how gambling, this is why I say it's something beyond just us additionally spending money on skins anymore. The way they're pushing it, and then the way they're marketing it, and then the way that they're using people's own fears or people's own potential, issues within themselves to proliferate is what I'm having a hard time with not seeing it as the evilness it is and the real potential downfall to where the industry is going, where it's pushing, because it's only going to take one person that decides that he just wasted $10,000 on this and he doesn't want to be around anymore. And then, well, wait, maybe we should take a look at this. Well, why do we have to wait for that finality? Why do we as a society, or we as people, have to wait until something is so out of control that we have to try and fix it when we can identify there's an issue now? And, it's not even like we have to attack it. All we simply have to do is stop engaging with it. And I think that's the hardest thing, right? Is this is like, Joe Camel over here just puffing cigarettes in front of children and handing them out fake packs of candy cigarettes, right? Nothing nefarious there. I'm not trying to create a negative feedback loop that's going to turn a bunch of, children into potential smokers. That's it. I mean, this is exactly what they're doing, and they're using our favorite streamers. They're using our favorite platforms to push these narratives. And I think one of the most disgusting versions of it I've seen in recent times is with Madden. When Madden did their CDL or Championship League, I forgot what it was called, All Madden Team or whatever. It was literally a advertisement to sell HUT players. Is it called HUT or it's MUT? I think it's MUT. It's Madden Ultimate Team. Yeah, so it's MUT. To sell MUT players. The announcers were trained to sell the MUT players. The players were trained to sell the MUT players. Everything around the broadcasting, the way it was designed, the way it looked, was to push this narrative of they were calling out the signature abilities on certain cards that you can only get by spending thousands of dollars to get them. Oh, well, look at that. He just had, the overpower pass breaker where he gets to break through two additional defenders and, make a catch through contact, right? And I was watching it and I'm like, this is insane. This isn't just oh, we're watching this gameplay, right? We're watching somebody play and, a triggerable action inside of it happened. No, it was this action happened because this card has this when no other card has it, and you need this card to win. And I was just it was truly despicable and disgusting in my opinion. I don't know if everyone else shares that effect or shares those thoughts, but I mean, it was just, the more expensive things get in life, the more, the older I'm getting and the older the kids are getting, the way money gets spent in this family just has changed. And as much as I love video games, I just don't have the money to go, you know what, here's $200 for a new video game. Here's $600 for a new console. here's, $1,000 so that I can go slot gamble away to try and win a character. I just don't have those abilities. I don't have the ability to do that. And then even if I did, I could take $1,000 and do something incredible with the kids. I could take $1,000 and give them an experience they would never forget for the rest of their lives, right? How can you do that in a video game if I'm just buying skins, or I'm just buying DLC, or I'm just like so afraid that I'm going to miss out playing a new game that I am going to engage with a system that is just robbing me blind? And it's not just robbing me of money, it's robbing me of potential in my future. It's robbing me of potential for my family's future. And I'm not the only one, I'm framing this in that way because that's where I am in my life, where I have to make a choice between, do my kids get to eat or do I get to buy a new video game? And it's a very easy solution for me. I can go without, and I do all the time, so that they can have things in their life that I didn't always have as a child. um and so that's easy for me. But if I was a person that was single, if I was a person that had a little bit of disposable income and didn't have those responsibilities, I can see and I can identify why it's so hard, or why it's so easy for them to be targeted and manipulated and pushed and pushed and pushed. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that these companies are pushing us to this breaking point. And that's where we need to band together as communities and just encourage each other to be okay with not playing it. Why didn't you play the new Madden game? Well, because it doesn't deserve money to be spent on it. They did nothing to update it. They did nothing to fix it. It was released in a completely bugged, unplayable state. And then instead of somebody saying, "Oh, well, I still bought it," or, "Well, you should just still buy it because they're gonna fix it. Like, you got to give them time to fix it." Like, instead of that being the mentality that a lot of us end up taking in these situations, I think we need to become supportive of one another, and start pushing those narratives and creating positive feedback loops. If someone goes, "You know what? I didn't buy Harry Potter because I don't agree with the politics behind some of the things that was happening," instead of us attacking them and going, "You know what? Don't be like a liberal, you know, leftist. Like, it's just a video game. Like, get over yourself." Okay, maybe I don't agree with you, but that's cool that you didn't do that. What other game are you going to play? Why can't we take those interactions and find a way to frame them so that they can be positive for both people without taking it personally? And the reason it's like that is because that's what the industry is doing with how they market these games, and with this mob mentality they try to create, where it's an us versus them, right? It's, if somebody doesn't love your game, attack them, right? If somebody doesn't love your system, attack them. They're the enemy. Like, get them, get them. But it's never turn that die around and look at who's pushing you in those directions. And that's the biggest thing. The people that are pushing us in those directions are the companies that are profiteering from the worst things. What's up? Do I want it? I was planning on eating it later. Why? You can have half of it. I don't need all of it. Okay. What are you looking at?
Oh,
Yeah. I don't know. See, there you go. A cherry pie. I really did want to eat all of it, but I can go without because he wants some of it, right? Perfect example. um, wow, that derailed me. What was I gonna say? Oh, yeah. So we're having them purposely create these narratives that put us in battle with each other to disguise the people we should be entrenching ourselves against, which is these companies, where when they go to release the next Assassin's Creed, when they go to release the next Star Wars game, where it's just filled with $3,000 of DLC, we need to hold each other up and let people know it's okay to miss out on those things, and it's okay not to engage with them. And I feel like that's not where we're not maturing. We're getting older as gamers, and the marketplace is getting older, but we're not maturing emotionally, or we're not maturing in a way where we're making things inclusive. And that's why I love so many of these little pockets of fandom on some of the video games, because it's amazing to see how some of those cultures are growing, and to see how like mature they are, how inclusive they are, how welcoming they are to people that are coming in from the outside. And it's never a company that's creating that. That's always like a communal thing that's created within the society, like on the fringes, in small little, subsectors, and small little chat rooms and forums, and on Twitch and on YouTube. And those people are the ones that are creating where the video game industry should be. It shouldn't matter what kind of game you like to play. It shouldn't matter what system you own. It shouldn't, none of that should matter. All that should matter is that you have fun playing video games, and you have an experience that brings joy to your life that you want to share with somebody else. Why should the conversation be anything else? And you know what? If you didn't share that experience with it, like somebody else did, let's say somebody was sharing an experience and they didn't enjoy it as much as you, it shouldn't be an attack against you, or your love for a game, or your need for confirmation bias, that because they disagree with you, you have to argue with them, or you have to attack them back, or you have to create this moment where you have to end with your opinion being the only one that matters. And I feel like it's rampant in the video game industry. I've been a part of a lot of communities where I've seen this, appear, and I've seen it as things that are happening. You see the drama and the nature of some of that stuff happening on YouTube, because drama is currently selling, and that's what I'm trying to avoid. I don't ever want to get entrenched in anything like that, because it's just not worth the time to proliferate such tragedy when there's so many other beautiful things we can be talking about. There's all these indie games on Steam that you can buy, that you can get for free, that you can play, that can just bring joy to your life, which is what a video game should do. If it's a multiplayer game, it should be connecting you with other people. I have friends that I met playing games from 25 years ago, like on original Xbox Live, or on the original PSN, which by the way was horrible to use. And I still talk to him today, and we still game. That's why MMOs will always have a place in my heart, because the amount of people from all walks in life that it would bring in is an incredible testament to what the internet could and should be, and not a testament to what it currently kind of is. Does that say I've been playing for 440? I've played a lot of Counter-Strike too. Um, it is what it is. I love Counter-Strike. I get very very good endorphin runs and endorphin rushes playing that game. Um, and I won't. I've bought in loot boxes. I've bought in skins. I've definitely tailored the way I spend money for a lot of games. For Counter Strike 2, I went in and I bought like the cheapest skins. Um, I even had my account hacked and stolen, and like these people are taking the time to run scams and to hack. Well, my account got stolen because Counter Strike 2 left an open source that allowed people to access my IP, and then they came in and they traded a bunch of shit off of my account. Um, and I fought with them for weeks trying to get it fixed and sorted out, and they never took responsibility. They never fixed it, but then they did patch it out, and oh well, good luck. But I mean, like, imagine if I had thousands of dollars in skin, or if I had $1 million. That would be awesome. I had $1 million in skin. I wonder what $1 million skin account looks like. Probably pretty insane. Um, but I want to try with my videos. I want to try with my community as it's growing and as it's building, to create those positive feedback loops where we're trying to kill that level of FOMO. We're trying to eliminate a company's ability to push people into spending money based off of gambling habits, based off of addiction manipulation, based off of, FOMO. I'm not a big enough person that I could ever have a major effect in that. I I don't even know if anyone's gonna watch this video. I'm sure 2 or 3 people might watch it. Maybe one day more will watch it. Um, I'm just making this because I kind of like, after talking to a couple of my friends, it just kind of sat with me all night, and I really wanted to get a lot of this out because I feel like I needed to say it, and maybe somebody watches it, and maybe somebody agrees, maybe someone goes to go spend some money, and they go, you know what, Dadam was right. I don't need to waste this money, and I don't need to feel bad about it, or I don't need to feel like I'm gonna be a pariah for not doing it. And I know some of those were like extremes, but they are situations that do exist um, within society, within school systems, within small children, teenagers, um, and even like just playing the games naturally, right? If you've ever played a game online, I would challenge you to argue with me that you haven't been into a game where if there are skins available, you haven't heard people start picking on someone because they're using the base skin. Like as if that's a commentation of how good they could possibly be, or like their level of knowledge. Like, oh, you're only using the base skin. Like, you must be a noob. I don't want you on my team. Or like anything you say is irrelevant. Like I can almost guarantee that if you've played any kind of online game that has any of those functions or any of those interactions in them, you have been witness to or been a part of one of those conversations. It is what it is because it's the culture that we created. It's the culture that has taken over. And to me, I, it's really hard for me to play an online game like that because, and even if I do, I turn off chat and I hate that because I want to engage with people. But the level of toxicity built into the anonymity of just people being online has created some super, super, super bad negative feedback loops, especially on specific games. Call of Duty being one. Uh, it's crazy, right? I couldn't tell you if there's I'm sure there is one. I couldn't tell you what it is. Of good community like interaction for any of those games. I know a lot of that is due to the entrenchment and hacking and the things that are currently going on. Um, there's some big time streamers that have currently been banned or suspiciously have taken, uh, large breaks from a game that was making them, tens of $1,000s a week. Um, I think it doesn't look good when you're playing this game every day and then the moment a anti-cheat gets updated, you suddenly decide you're going to take a break for an undisclosed period of time. Um, when that game was making you that level of money and you have proven yourself to be that money hungry. And that's not to say that there's probably not a guy out there that just got burnt out and, legitimately wants to take a break. And, kudos for him for having the strength to have mental health awareness and self-care. Um, I'm just going to end this with if anyone ever needs to talk about anything, please hit me up. Hit me up in Discord, on stream, at Dadam Gaming 129, Twitch TV. Leave me a message on YouTube. I am available for anyone who wants to talk. If you were ever experiencing a moment of stress, of anxiety, of those feelings where you felt like you need somebody to talk you off the ledge. I don't know you, but I'm here for you. Drop a like, subscribe. most importantly, do something kind for somebody else in the world. Pieces.